So, I recently finished the Golden Slumbers World Quest, and oh boy, I have some thoughts. Initially, I wasn't going to make this video like I wanted to, but I wasn't sure how it would be received. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna get a lot of hate for this, but that's just how things go. So let's get started. The first thing I want to say is I love Genshin Impact. I have been playing this game since Wendy's first banner ever came out, so it's been a while. When the game was first released, one of the many things that motivated me to keep playing was the amazing story. And with all the lowriders in the community, I know I'm not the only one who felt that way. I enjoyed going through the different story quests, finding books, notes and letters that hinted at the bigger storyline. However, recently I've started noticing an issue with the writing. Now, don't get me wrong, the game's lore has always been interesting. That hasn't changed with the introduction of Sumeru. But what I have an issue with is the execution and the writing of these stories. So in this video, I'm just gonna break down all the issues that I found in the Golden Slumbers quest specifically. This could obviously apply to other quests as well, but my focus is going to be Golden Slumbers only. Now, let's go over the first issue, being length. Is it just me, or have the story quests become longer with the release of Sumeru? This was something I noticed when I played the first Sumeru Archon quest, and since then it feels like every quest has just gotten longer. Now here's the thing, I don't mind long quests, as long as it's justified. But recently I've noticed that a lot of Genshin quests are so long because they rely on filler to extend the runtime. There's a lot of standing around, a lot of exposition dumps, and so much listening to other characters that you're basically a passive character in the game. Now with the Golden Slumbers quest, I can give it a bit of a pass because there were a lot of puzzles to solve that added to the runtime of the quest, but there were also parts of the quest that could have been shortened without affecting the storyline. Now I'm gonna give you an example, but don't think that I'm being nitpicky because it might sound a little ridiculous, but just hold on. When we first meet Boniface, we get the details of this quest from him. Nostigal and his party disappeared 2 days ago, and there's been no word from them. Sounds simple, right? Well, to start our journey, we do the stupidest thing. We follow the footsteps left by the party 2 days ago. Listen, I admit that I don't go out a lot, but there is no way that footsteps from 2 days ago are still there. Firstly, from what we know about the desert, is that there are sandstorms in the night, right? If the sandstorm doesn't erase the footsteps, you know what would? The passing of the 2 days. Also, there's the fact that you can't even be sure that those are their footsteps. I know you must be wondering why I'm so obsessed with footsteps, but I just brought up this example to show the logical inconsistencies that make the quests longer. Instead of following the 2-day-old footsteps, the traveler could have gotten the last location of the party from Boniface, since he did tell us that Nostigal had been sending him updates. Then teleport to that area, find the group in the given area, and done! Let's go over another example, okay? So when we first arrive in the area where the party is trapped, we meet Jabral. He immediately lets us know that the group is trapped and that if we have a way out, we should leave. This made me stop and stare for a moment. Because here's the thing, right? If you're trapped and someone shows up to help, would you tell them to leave, or would you ask them to show you the way out? Or at least send word to somebody that the group is trapped. You can argue that Jabral needed Terzar to go to the nearby ruin, but there's a way to do that without so much running around and standing around. Because as we move from person to person to get information, it's not like we learn anything at all. Terzar is too drunk and Nostigal is totally out of it. Jed, on the other hand, is more interested in how Paimon can fly. You can say that I'm being too harsh, and you know what, maybe I am. But when a quest needs to cover 3 different ruins and multiple puzzles, I think we can skip on the filler and just get to the point. Issue 2. Killing characters just to make you sad. A character's death is always heartbreaking, especially when you've spent so much time getting to know them. But here's the thing, to have an emotional conclusion to your story, it isn't necessary for someone to die. And Genshin already has a weird problem with killing parents. It's like a curse and event. If you have a child, you have a 95% chance of passing away tragically. Like, what the hell is up with that? The thing that bothered me the most while playing the Golden Slumbers quest is that I knew Jabral was going to die, and it wasn't because I saw some spoiler on Twitter. It was because the game was making it so damn obvious. The whole time Jabral wouldn't stop talking about dying and reuniting with his wife, and I was like, yeah, this man's gonna die. Subtlety, thy name is not Genshin Impact. And the worst part about this decision to kill Jabral was that they didn't even do it properly. The entire ending of the quest felt so rushed that they missed whatever emotional beats they were trying to hit. Here's the thing, okay? Here's the thing. I will cry at any remotely sad scene. Like, a character could be slightly inconvenienced and I will burst into tears. But with this quest, I felt nothing. That might also be because for all the actual emotional scenes, they used a black screen with some text on it. There were so many ways to make this quest emotional without actually killing Jabral, but at this point it feels like Genshin has one trick up their sleeve and they are not afraid to use it. Issue 3, lack of growth. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, this point was added because of one single character, which is Terzat. If the Golden Slumbers quest was long, then his existence just made it longer. I understand that he was meant to show how people in the academia treat those who live in the desert and also about their misconceptions of King Dashrath. But here's the thing, there have been multiple instances in other quests when these 2 points have been hammered home. Terzat isn't offering anything that we as players don't already know. And oh god, in the beginning of the quest, Terzat was kind of annoying, but then he became downright insufferable. The worst part of it all is that by the end of the quest, he didn't have any sort of growth as a person. So now if you tell me that there's another quest with Terzat, I'd say no thank you. I would rather be sealed under Nyantem with Astaha than deal with this man ever again. There was also this amazing opportunity to make him related to Jet's mother. The groundwork was already there. Terzat had a cousin who was working on the tablet before she left home to marry someone her family didn't approve of. Ophaira was a researcher who left everything behind to be with Jabral. And you can say that it's implied, but why not actually reveal it in the quest? Because let's be real, Terzat went back to Sumeru not knowing that Jet is probably like his niece or something. I don't understand what the point of hinting at this was if they weren't going to go through with it. Can you imagine what it would be like if Terzat found out that Ophaira was his relative and then he took Jet back home with him so she could learn more about her mother the way she wanted to? Genshin, you make me wanna scream and not in a good way. Now, let's move on to my favorite part of the video in which I explain how I would have gone about writing the Golden Slumbers quest because for some reason, my opinion matters. It really doesn't, but I have thoughts and I will release them into the world. Okay, so the first change I'd make is that I would hire voice actors for this quest. When you want to hit emotional beats in a world quest, why not utilize all your resources? With good voice acting, we would understand the characters better, and the moments where Jabral shares his past or sings the song for Jet would be so much more impactful. I know this was a minor change, we're gonna get into the bigger ones now. So change 2. Now, as I mentioned earlier, one of the bigger changes I'd make to the story is letting Terzat know Jet is related to him. This is how I would go about it. Firstly, we'd have to age down Terzat a bit and make it so that when he was growing up, he actually knew Ophaira and that she was the only one in the family that truly believed in him. So when she left, he was confused because he cared for her so dearly. And the reason why he picked up the tablet was because he not only wanted to continue her work, but he thought that if he did, he would meet her again. It would also give Jabral a more concrete reason to protect Terzat and deal with his bullshit. It's not just because of Samael, but because Terzat meant something to Ophaira. So now that we have laid down the groundwork, we move on to the reveal. Obviously, the confrontation with Samael happens and Jabral eventually tells everyone about his past and Thutmose. He mentions Ophaira's name and that's when Terzat knows. Since Terzat hoped to see Ophaira again, knowing that she's dead isn't something he'd be able to accept easily. Maybe he has a breakdown, maybe he throws a tantrum. But this time, Jabral is able to calm him down. And they visit Ophaira's grave together before heading out to face Samael. Now you might think, but wait, won't this add more scenes to the quest and make it longer? Well, remember, I said, I don't mind long quests as long as it's justified. Now, change 3. One of the major issues I had with the quest was its ending. To me, it felt really rushed. And I'll stand by what I said before. I don't think Jabral should have died. But even so, I have options for you. The first ending would go something like this. The group confronts Samael, and in order to save Jet, Jabral gives him the words he needs to recite while sitting on the throne. Samael does exactly that, and we get a peek inside his head. Remember how Jabral said that the throne will only reveal itself to those who are worthy? Well, there's no way that Samael is worthy. So instead of being accepted to the eternal slumber, judgment is passed on him and he dies. He does not become super powerful. Like, be for real now. The group escapes, everyone lives. And in the end, both Jet and Jabral go back to Sumeru City with Terzat so Jet can know more about her mother from the 2 people she cared for the most. A nice, clean ending. Now, if that isn't good enough for you, you're like, nah, that's too good. It's okay, I have 2 more options. Now, the next ending would follow the same path as the original one. Samael has Al-Ahmar's wisdom, and now there's a darkness consuming the domain. Jabral chooses to sacrifice himself and fights against Samael. But instead of him suddenly realizing that he can control the darkness and win immediately, let someone else remind him of that. He did mention that he could hear Ophiria in the many voices around him, and since he did previously mention in the quest that one day he would see her again, let her spirit come to help him. The 2 of them together overpower Samael. Finally, Ophiria knows that it's not Jabral's time yet, another thing that he previously mentioned, and instead of allowing him to enter the eternal slumber, she sends him back to Jet. I personally think their parting would be more emotional than Jabral dying. Now, I wrote the final ending for Hoyoverse's sake. Since you all love killing parents so much, this is for you. Jabral sacrifices himself in order to save his daughter. Instead of the scene cutting to black, we actually see the group running out of the domain and the door closing behind them. Everything continues to shake, and Jet bangs against the door, begging for her father to come back. She's wailing and she's crying, and since the area around them is falling apart, Terzad and the Traveler have no choice but to drag her to safety. In the end, they all meet up with Boniface and Nachtigall. Instead of everyone casually talking about what they're gonna do next as if someone didn't just die, Terzad urges Jet to come with him and reminds her that she isn't alone, that she still has a family and always will. The quest ends with the 2 of them going to Sumeru City together. Now you may say, but Winter, isn't this the same thing as the actual ending of the quest? Well, yes, but in my version, the quest is voiced and you can actually see the emotional moments instead of a black screen with some text on it. Anyways, this is how I would personally write the Golden Slumbers quest. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say in the comments below, whether you agree or disagree. At the end of the day, we all have our personal preferences, even when it comes to something like storytelling. So if you guys have any other quests you'd like me to cover, let me know. But for now, this is it. Thank you guys for watching.